And we are live. Hello, everyone. I'm Justin Quindang. If you're here to build a stronger team and a more effective company culture, you're in the right place. In each episode, our guests provide advice, strategies, and insights to help you and your people thrive. And I'm excited for today's conversation. We have an expert panel, and in no specific order, I'm honored to bring them on one by one. And our first panelist that we have, Shaye Woodward. Shaye Woodward is the co-founder of Two Left Footprints and director of coaching and people with ND OutLoud. As an ADHD and AuDHD entrepreneur, coach, and creator, Shaye infuses every product and project with lived experience and heart. Whether she's designing relatable goods, coaching overwhelmed women, or crafting systems that actually work for neurodivergent minds, Shaye's mission is simple: to help others feel seen, supported, and unapologetically themselves. Let's welcome Shaye Woodward. Next panelist is Thomas Island. Thomas Island was diagnosed with autism at 13 years old and left his career as a certified public accountant. He now owns Come to Life Coaching, is a DEI consultant, certified human potential coach, the only Toastmasters International accredited speaker with autism in the world, and recently broke his own Guinness World Record as the world's oldest person with autism to finish a full Ironman triathlon. Let's welcome Thomas Island. Our next panelist, Stone Guy. Stone Guy is a United States combat veteran, neurodivergent counselor, systems architect, and strategist, and founder of StoneGuy.agency. With a powerful presence and a vision for global transhumanism, Stone integrates automation, deep community work, and post-capitalist principles to empower professionals worldwide. Let's welcome Stone Guy. And last but not least, let's welcome Alana Bikes. Diagnosed with ADHD in 2016 after years in the high-pressure world of hospitality, where she earned her Red Seal chef certification in 2010 and worked until 2019. She faced a long, isolating journey of self-discovery and recovery with no roadmap and no one to walk alongside her. Navigating the gap between diagnosis and thriving was a painful, years-long process, compounded by burnout and the complexities of supporting a partner diagnosed with ASD in 2018. Now, drawing from her lived experience and hard-won insights, she's committed to being the guide she never had, helping others find clarity, community, and empowerment in their own neurodivergent journeys. Let's welcome Alana, am I saying it correctly? Alana Bikes.
Alana Bikes.
Alana Bikes. Thank you. Thank you, Alana. All right. Again, to our guests and panelists today, really honored to have you on. Today, open conversation. And the first question I'd like to pose to our expert panel, looking at the research, the first question is, I've noticed that Dr. Lawrence Fung of Stanford University has pointed out that the strengths of people with neurodiverse conditions are often overlooked. Now, what benefits and innovations are we missing by not integrating neurodivergent strengths into the workplace?
I'd like to break the ice, if I may, Jesper.
Yes, go ahead, Tom.
Thank you. So there's a saying, particularly in the autism community, I think this applies to other neurodiverse and neurodivergent conditions or what have you, it's that I miss what others catch, and I catch what others miss. So our voices are meaningful and valuable, but only if they are heard. And I'll tell a brief story about how this actually happened in an organization I belong to. Anybody remember Blockbuster Video? Well, I used to work there, and around the time they were getting rid of late fees to compete with Netflix, I was in school to go be a CPA, do accounting, and I knew that late fees were a big chunk of our revenue pie. And I hear they're getting rid of late fees. I tell my manager that this isn't a good idea. We need to stop this. We're going to lose money in our business. And the manager said to me, Tom, who are people going to believe? The CEO of a Fortune 500 company or a community college accounting major? And guess what happened next? Blockbuster got rid of late fees. They didn't have inventory available for customers. Customers got upset, and now no more Blockbuster. There's only one left in Bend, Oregon. But the point is, maybe that community college accounting major was onto something. And when our words are discounted or dismissed, it could cost you the company. So be mindful of what we have to offer and let it be heard.
Thank you, Tom. Excellent insight. And panel, any other thoughts? What benefits and innovations are we missing by not integrating neurodivergent strengths into the workplace?
I'll jump in there, Jasper, and I want to just add that I agree with what Thomas is saying. For sure, we do miss a lot of things that other people catch, but we also catch a lot of other things people don't. And there's a lot of times that, you know, I've been in meetings where I will pick up the nuances of people, and we'll see the things, those little nuances that others may not see. And because of that, if we're afraid to share that, or we're afraid to speak out and say, you know, there's something that's not quite right here, but I can't give you exactly what it is, then we may be dismissed. But at the same time, we're seeing something that's underneath the visibility, underneath the seeing here right now, and allowing us to be able to speak up and speak out without having that concern of other things going on, or the concern of someone else saying, well, what do you know? Kind of like what he was saying about, they said, well, who are they going to believe? The Fortune 500 company, or are they going to believe somebody who just got out of college? We pick up on those things that they don't. And if we aren't allowed to speak it out, then there's a lot of missed opportunities that could be lost for not only the company, but individuals within that company.
Excellent insight. Thank you, Shaye.
I agree with Thomas. Your story is, I mean, I have different stories, but it's the same message in my own career. There have been many times in my own career where some new plan, some new program has been rolled out by leadership, and sitting in the presentation to learn about it, I can see 3, 5, 10 steps ahead where the problems are going to happen. But often the corporate culture that I've worked in has been the kind of culture where if you're not at the top, your voice is not valued. And in fact, it would be really preferential if you would just be quiet and fall in line. And so I think it's really difficult to pinpoint what innovation is missing when there's a far bigger problem, which is that the voices just aren't even allowed to speak without being penalized. I think that needs to be addressed long before we're trying to find the innovation that we're missing out on.
Excellent insight. Thank you, Alana. And Stone, wanted to get your thoughts on this question.
I apologize. My system is really buggy. Can you repeat the question, please?
Absolutely, no worries. So what benefits and innovations are we missing by not integrating neurodivergent strengths into the workplace?
Sure. If I were to give an analogy, it's similar to someone with dementia. Maybe they have all of their faculties. Maybe they can make themselves a cup of coffee or tea, but there's something missing. And that's how it is for organizations that don't account for all aspects of their workforce.
Excellent. Thank you, Stone. And we actually have a comment from someone in our audience. And let me pull that up. So from Sarah Hamilton, from an HR perspective, I would like to add, taking away the pressures of participation and ensuring everyone is accommodated as to how they participate the best gives neurodivergent people the space they need to thrive and to show everything they bring to the table. Want to get your thoughts from the panel.
Accommodations are a must nowadays, and a lot of times the neurodivergent or neurodiverse individual may even be afraid to ask for them, be it in the interview process, before the interview process, or even on the job, for fear of retaliation or even termination. And I really believe that if we, as a society, be understanding of what we have to bring to the table, even if we have a reasonable accommodation that would be helping us do our job better, I think everyone can win.
Excellent. Thank you, Tom.
Sorry, go ahead, Stone.
No, it's fine. I was just trying to figure out how to frame this appropriately. The number of clients that I have who I work with who have lost their job because they've disclosed that they are neurodivergent. While there are laws, especially here in Australia, there are laws you can't do that. But in the rest of the world, I recognize that there are also laws in the world that prevent that type of discrimination. It doesn't always hold. So I think it's important that neurodivergent employees work with their EAP, or they work with their counselor, or they work with someone who can advocate along with them if their intention is to remain effective in the workforce.
Thank you, Sil. Shaye, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I wanted to add to that yes, there is a pressure in the workforce of letting people know that you're neurodivergent, because when you do, sometimes there's an issue of the labeling going on. Yes, we're all trying to make it better in the workforce, in the corporate field, in schools, and in all of that. The problem is that once you bring that out, and this is what a lot of people dealing with neurodivergence is having a struggle with, is once you bring it out and you let people know, then there's a concern of retaliation, or there's a concern of, am I going to lose my job? Do I have to work harder? Do I've got to do things differently? Or do I have to work twice as hard to meet their expectations when I know that for me to do that, I'm going to burn myself out? And so I think, yes, we do need to have an advocate, but there are real life situations where even when you have that advocate, you still have a lot of struggle. But I do believe that there has to be put in place somewhere, somehow, in corporate world, in regular jobs, in whatever job you're working in, schools and things like that, that there are really true advocates, not just to placate, but to help people to achieve. Because I can tell you right now, a lot of people that are neurodivergent are super intelligent, super capable, and they want to do this. They just need a tool to be able to step into that and get there and do it. There is not the fact that they can't do it. It's, okay, I might need the lights in the office lowered. I might need to be in a place where I can wear headphones. I might need a place where, I work off by myself. But instead of making that be something of a problem, how can we accommodate this and make it work? So that's the thoughts I feel about it. I've just seen too many people with neurodivergence that can do the job. They just need to do it a little differently, and that's not accepted. And so it makes it harder for companies. It makes it harder for people to get employed. And so that's where I'm coming from, and just being able to see that. And let's turn those labels down and start treating people with, what can we do to help you to succeed? Invest into this company, and let's all have a successful end.
Thank you, Shaye. Any other thoughts?
So in my own practice with my clients, one of the things that keeps coming up, like the legislation around disability in the workplace is essential. But there's an education component that is always missing with the legislation. The number of clients that I've worked with over the years who've talked about, yeah, I disclosed to my boss, and now the standard that I'm held to is my kid or my niece or nephew or whoever is also neurodiverse, and the expectation is that you're the level of a child in their lived experience who is also dealing with neurodivergence. And so this knowledge gap of decision makers and people who hold power over employees is a huge problem. And it's a limiting problem, because if the way you're handling someone who's disclosed to you is based on your own kid who's got neurodiverse, how is that fully grown, highly educated, highly skilled adult ever going to be successful if the standard that you're holding them to, if your preconceived notion is of a child who's dealing with that same condition, and the accommodations you're providing are through that lens? And so legislation is great, but the education piece is almost more important in order to meaningfully employ neurodiverse folks.
Excellent. Thank you, Elena. And then I want to bring up another comment from our audience, and it comes from Aaron Anitavi. Neurodivergence is hiding a master's degree in a drawer, while the systems are the means by which we hang it and frame it. Want to get the thoughts from our panel.
In the same vein of the story I told about to disclose or not to disclose, that is the question. And I'm finding that health-wise and as a human potential coach, believing that we can go a little bit higher in life, but it boils down to what we do. Are we going to be open and honest about what's what to ourselves and with others? Or is there something we're hiding or maybe having difficulty saying for whatever reason? So I think when you take a step in the direction of being the change you want to see in your life, things start to come better your way.
Thank you, Tom. Any other thoughts?
I think it goes along with what I'm probably going to butcher your name. I'm sorry, Alana. Did I say that right? Okay.
Close enough.
Okay, thanks. I think it goes along with that with the education side of it. If our employers and companies had an education of understanding what neurodiverse is, what that means, and how we can be, used in a way that works for us and be able to do it, then we wouldn't be having to hide our master's degree in the drawer, so to speak. The systems that are there are struggling because they don't have the education piece side of it of understanding really what does it mean. It doesn't mean that we're going to be bouncing out of our seats if we're ADHD. It doesn't mean that we're not going to be able to socialize if we're autistic. It's none of that. There's so many aspects of it, and the education piece of it is not there to help us understand, to know what to do. There are systems in place, but the systems just are not matching where we really are. And so when we don't have the two combined together, we are hiding who we are. We can't stand up and say, yes, I'm ADHD or I'm AuDHD or I'm autistic, and these are my strengths for you. So therefore, what systems can we have to be able to pull them out and hang them up and say, yeah, I am this. That doesn't mean that's who I all am. I am part of this and I am part of this. So allow me to have this capability to show you what I can do without a concern of, well, it doesn't fit that box, so therefore you need to put it back in the drawer.
Thank you, Shaye. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I really like Erin's analogy, and she's actually brilliant. She's working in this field every day. This is what our company does. Her comment not only speaks to the reality of what happens with people who disclose, it also betrays the idea that we need a systemic change, not just having different policies and procedures. It's the way we look at people, how people contribute. They're I know in the U.S. they have laws about race. Before that, it was women, and now it's neurodiverse people. Or there's going to be some other aspect where people are being marginalized. So that's a systems issue, a culture issue, and unless we're willing to have that kind of conversation, then it becomes really difficult to try to legislate something of this nature.
Thank you, Stone. Any other thoughts? And then this is a good segue to our next question, and it does have to do with system changes. So the question is, what are system changes organizations can make right now to allow neurodivergent strengths to flourish?
I would say it starts with the application and interview process. The more you can make it accommodating to the individual applicant. For example, if you require an in-person interview, but the person does well virtually, allow that accommodation to be implemented if and whenever possible. If you want to go a step further, if they request that questions be provided prior to the interview so they can best prepare without necessarily calling or claiming an unfair advantage. Sometimes you'd be surprised when you give the assistance to someone that asks for it, you'll get more solutions if and when they get hired in the organization, because you decide to go the extra mile. And small accommodations can pay big dividends down the road. The little things that count.
Thank you, Tom.
I think it's useful to, it's useful to have a tactical approach and also a strategic one. So a strategic approach is similar to, let's say that you're a mother or a father, and by default, you love your child. And loving your child means that there is a whole world of things that you just naturally do to make sure that your child is taken care of. In the case of HR or an organization that's responsible for ensuring that they have the best talent within their organization, they might do things such as, what is the psychological or behavioral fit for this role? And what does that mean? And so by having a behavioral profile for a role, this is something that I do in my organization, is I might have a role, but then I'll look at the behavioral profiles that are a best match for that. And then I ask an applicant, how do you see this meeting your values? And so by inviting them into the conversation, they're able to co-create rather than taking an employee and forcing them into a box and saying, this is how you have to behave. So I don't tend to see that in the workforce where employers are looking for opportunities to co-create productivity. And also just the word productivity is not, there isn't a definition for that for everyone. They don't get to say this is what productivity means, even though it's quite subjective.
Thank you, Son. And Alana, I think you were about to mention something earlier.
Oh, okay. I mean, I was going to jump in a little bit on what Thomas said of unfair advantages. And I think that's a narrative that the workforce as a collective needs to drop. I don't think anybody going into an interview is demanding the glasses off my face because the glasses give me an unfair advantage in being able to read. Like, I think sometimes we get so trapped in making sure that it's an even playing field for everybody that we interview that we're actually doing a tremendous disservice to all the candidates that are actually worthy of being interviewed. So I think when we get really caught up in the narrative of advantages, I just think it goes back to that education piece. There's just so much that if you don't live this way, you might not understand how essential, like getting the questions in advance so that you can think about them is actually leveling the playing field for some people, if that's the accommodation they need. It's not an unfair advantage. It's actually just bringing you up to the same level as somebody else who walks into the room.
Thank you, Alana. Any other thoughts on this question? All right, thank you, panel. And the next question I have now, because neurodivergent individuals are less susceptible to social influence, they are more likely to report issues or efficiencies in the organization that others might overlook. As a result, this forms an organizational intelligence system. What can HR leaders do now to have neurodivergent talent as an organizational intelligence system to spot blind spots and innovation opportunities?
And I would say, particularly after the person is hired and they've been on the job for a while, maybe they are looking for something more or could have the opportunity to see something new, that if HR can provide them with an opportunity to get their feet wet or show them somewhere they might fit in well, an opportunity for promotion, because I know a lot of my clients, they want to get a job and then they get one and then they think that's where they're going to be until they die or get fired, whichever comes first. And I'm the kind of person that thinks that growth and promotion, when we see that we're capable of it, we are worthy of it, versus being in the same job for a long time, that's going to pay off more in the long run. Like, I have a personal example. I used to work in a movie theater. There was a guy who would always tear tickets. He was hired, I believe, because there was a legal or DEI requirement that had to be fitted by the company. Years later, he's still doing that. Did the organization not offer him or show him there's more to the job than this? Or does he believe this is how I'm going to do it? I just keep my head down, keep working, and this is how it's going to be. So I think HR, when they show neurodiverse, neurodivergent individuals that there's more to the organization than just what they're doing all day, and that they may actually do better somewhere else, particularly if they've been with the organization for a long time, if the person wants that, if that can come to fruition, and that will build their leadership and their outcomes.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, I think the question also is an opportunity to review culture. There are a lot of organizations that may state, this is what our culture is, and here are the indicators of our culture. And in many instances, that's not lived. It's just something that they've written down. And so if the organization is really interested in having their culture embodied, then all the voices that are going to be in that organization are going to be included, and they will have an opportunity to share, hey, I see an innovation that's possible here. So that's more of a culture question.
Thank you, Stone. Any other thoughts on this question?
I think there's also an aspect of being able to say things without having to be told that you're just being ridiculous or that's too much. Or one of my favorites that happened to me was, you're being too aggressive. And it's not that we're being aggressive, it's we've noticed something. And it goes back to the first question we were talking about of, we notice things that somebody else doesn't, or we realize that we can forecast things a lot easier than some of the other people because they're emotionally invested and we may not be. We're invested because we want it to succeed, but we don't have that emotional side of it where it's that, oh my gosh, it's going to spiral. We just look at it and say, based upon the numbers and based upon the logic and based upon these things, this is what could happen. But then being dismissed and doing this is causing part of the issue of having this, I don't want to say retaliation because it's not even that. It's just this dismissiveness of, well, you don't know what you're talking about. And the reality is that it does go back to culture too, Stone. I agree with you on that. The culture within the whole environment. Do we have the culture of, that's not okay if you're speaking out. That's not okay if you're bringing something up that we don't see. And also, what can we do to increase the capability and productivity within that culture, within that company, within that frame, that we can kind of adjust a little bit? I know there's a comment over here that somebody said there's a lot of little things that need to be done. And there is. What if you have the capability of allowing people to body double? And many of the people out there listening may not know what body doubling is. It's just having someone either on screen or in a room that's not doing anything to you or talking to you or anything, that's just there. But for some people, that actually helps them to stay on task, to be able to move forward, to get things done, get them done on the deadline. There's a lot of little things that could be implemented into the culture to create that. But there first has to be the capability of being able to say, hey, this way isn't working for me. Can we adjust it? This way isn't working for the team. Can we adjust it? So there's a lot of issues and things that even the littlest, tiniest change can make a huge difference. Are we willing to look at it?
Thank you, Shaye. Any other thoughts on this question?
I think a lot of the point, I think a lot of neurodiverse thinking tends to be countercultural to the workplace, to the workforce as a collective. So that we are experiencing resistance to speaking up is not surprising because we're trying to affect change. So removing the stigma from speaking up, addressing the microbullying or the bullying and the microaggression that happens to every neurodiverse person in the workplace, and addressing it with the right people, because often we're the same person who's being bullied but is also being held responsible for the behavior that's happening. Making sure that it is actually safe to speak up, because most of us, I can't speak to every neurodiverse person, but certainly my experience is speaking up equals bad. So if you want the goods in my brain, you're going to have to prove that you're safe to get all the goods that are in my brain, because historically that has not been the case. And I think that shift, I can't make that shift happen, but I can certainly educate people to understand what the benefits are of being a safe place where we can speak up and we can bring forward all these great intelligence options.
Thank you, Elena. And actually, that brings up a good point about speaking up. That's a great segue to our next question. And this next one, research demonstrates that neurodivergent employees enhance ability to identify inefficient processes and speak truth to power becomes a significant advantage. What are ways for HR leaders to embed neurodivergent truth-speaking attributes as a continuous improvement engine?
Definitely have an open door policy. If you have something to say, make sure you bring it to someone's attention and there not be any fear of judgment or retaliation when bringing that up. And even thinking about how it can improve the operations or the effectiveness, efficiency of the organization or even the company as a whole. For example, when I was at an internship with Disney, and after 2 tax seasons, I got promoted to lead intern. And when I got promoted, I decided I'm going to literally write the manual on how to complete a property tax return. That was my interns and I were doing. And I gave them the manual so I could answer their questions before they even would think to ask them. And as a result, they got their work done, about 500 tax returns in 4 months. They got it done faster than ever in the department's history under my leadership. So when given the opportunity and allowing us to implement what works for us and might work for others, that goes a long way. And I think it's going to make things better for the organization and everyone else involved.
Thank you, Tom.
I'll add to that
Shaye?
too. I think there's a lot of times that we don't even realize that some of the employees are neurodivergent. They may not have a diagnosis yet. They may not even know or understand why things are the way they are for them. But when we change some of these things and allow them to thrive in the way that they are, it not only helps that one person, but there are probably multiple other people within that area, that team, that group, that company, that they start picking up on it and they start thriving themselves. Just like what Thomas just said, he created the manual, which then allowed others to be able to go faster and getting things done that they didn't think they could. So there's a lot of things that we could be doing that not only affect the capability, the productivity, the success for those that have neurodivergence, but it filters on down. I think if we realize that when we accommodate one, we're actually accommodating all, because we're creating a sense of feeling safe within their own company, being able to come forth and say, this isn't working for me and I'm struggling. How can I do it better? Can you give me some assistance? Is there a place I can go for tips, techniques, tools to be able to do this better or different? And so I think when we start creating that accommodation for one, it actually filters out to all to be able to create a better environment, a better culture. And people are more invested in their company when they know they're there for them. They're more willing to be there for the company then too.
Thank you, Shaye. Any other thoughts on this question? All right, so I will take it to the next question and look at the bigger picture. What is possible when organizations have neurodivergent diversity as foundational in decision-making, innovation, and market positioning?
Definitely better rapport amongst colleagues, coworkers, customers, clients, and even investors and other people that will provide capital. I see the comment about capitalism in there. When we see the change that's being made from the inside, that all viewpoints are being brought to the table, considered at a minimum, implemented at best, then that is going to pay off for everybody. And the more we can see less of the problems and the perils and more of the potential and the possibilities, you get the win, win, win.
Thank you, Tom.
I see this question again. I probably just see culture everywhere, but this is. I'll just tell a brief story. There's a network that I facilitate, which is not necessarily neurodivergent, and we had a culture question within the network, and one of the participants said, "Let's give gifts. Everyone, as part of our culture, we give gifts. That way we shift the way we're relating to one another." And we didn't debate it for months on end. We had a conversation, and then the very next session, we started giving gifts to one another. And so it that subtle thing shifted us into a community that contributes to one another, both in spirit and in action. So when I hear that question, it's actually kind of exciting, because it means that an organization is willing to look at all of their assets and create a mechanism by which everyone can contribute. And that's a very rare thing.
Thank you, Sam.
I think there's plenty of case studies of ad campaigns and products that made it all the way to the market. And as soon as it hits the market, the public backlash is very loud, because the product was inappropriately, it was designed in a silo. There were no different voices at the table. There was no representation. That either there was no representation at the table or nobody felt safe speaking up. And it happens time and time again. And I think this is a great space where adding neurodiverse thinkers into those spaces prevents the backlash from rolling out a product that's inappropriately designed for actual application, or ad campaigns that are really inappropriate. And so we can talk about it through the lens of neurodiversity, but we can talk about it through the lens of any diversity. The more diversity in all decision making, the higher quality, the innovation, the decision, the rollout, the product, the development, the analysis, every step of it is better when more voices, more unique voices are added.
Thank you, Alana. Any other thoughts for this question? All right, and I actually want to bring up the latest comment from Aaron and get the panel's thought on this. If we build for the minority, we make it better for the majority. If we build for the majority, we alienate the minority. Wanted to get your thoughts.
I think that goes along with what she just said. If you have more of the voices coming in and the people giving opinions and giving them insight, I think it's not just this little bit of piece that you're going to be helping, accommodating, taking care of. You're going to be able to help more of the masses, so to speak. And I think that, like I said earlier, when you're helping someone with one accommodation, how does that filter out in the rest of the company? If they understand, if the education piece is there of helping them understand that this is for their productivity, and so therefore they can come and help you, and then they help you, and it just kind of goes around to the whole thing, and it creates this majority of input, majority of being able to work together in one area to move it forward, instead of this constant butting of heads or constant hitting the wall and not moving forward and getting anywhere. So I really believe that if we build for the minority, it is better for the majority, because of the fact that then the majority, one, understands, two, there's a lot of those that don't realize that they need some of those accommodations, and three, by everybody working together, it moves faster. It's like when you're pushing a car, one person pushing the car, it's not going to go very far, is it? But if you have a group of 5 or 10 people together, all putting that energy into it, the car's going to move.
Thank you, Shaye.
And money is really the language that needs to be spoken here. I think if we appeal to individuals, groups, minorities, what have you, that have money to spend, they want somewhere to take their business. We hadn't really taken what they have to offer into consideration, and now we are. You'd be surprised how much that can help a company's bottom line. And that's the language that investors, are you going to make more money for me? And exploring that possibility will help. And I think if we continue to overlook what might be a missing piece of the chain or the puzzle or what have you, the picture is not going to be truly completed. And the mission, the vision, the values of the organization or organizations involved won't be fulfilled. So everybody needs to be taken into account. Look at markets you hadn't really thought of before, and you'd be amazed what win-win-win can come out of it.
Yeah,
Thank you, Tom.
Aaron's comment, it reminds me of the sidewalk analogy, where the sidewalk that has the dip in it, it allows the mother with the pram to go up. It allows the person with the dolly bringing their parcels up. Everyone benefits from that, not just someone who has a wheelchair. So it makes both logical, tactical sense for any organization, especially if they're concerned with profit, to ensure that diverse views are incorporated into the way that they're managing people. And also we want to recognize the fact that neurodiversity doesn't look, it doesn't have a particular look. You can't look at someone and say, oh, they're neurodiverse. There are intersectionalities that are applicable here. So behavior.
Thank you, so. Any other thoughts on this comment? Now, there's one more question I'd like to bring up, and it's on the topic of leadership. And on this topic of leadership, what are the ways neurodivergent people from diverse backgrounds reshape leadership to generate more effective organizations and organizational structures?
I want to echo what I mentioned earlier about opportunities for promotion, because it's tough to make ends meet as it is. And neurodivergent people are also looking to earn their keep and make ends meet. And if there's a possibility for them to have a raise or be given a position that they could very well fit in, but they don't know about it and are not introduced to it, they'll just stay in the same, or are at risk of staying in the same position over time. And I'm grateful that my manager at Disney saw the potential in me, offered me that position of lead intern, and it helped me flourish and help their department flourish. So organizations out there, I think it would be paramount to look at opportunities for growth, even if it may seem a bit risky. I think getting our feet wet, seeing what is good for them, at least let them see firsthand with their own eyes, even hands-on experience, and see where that goes. If it pays off, awesome. If not, all right, at least you saw what was what. We'll back to the drawing board. We won't know what we won't know until we go for it. Let neurodivergent individuals go for those leadership opportunities if and when they can.
Building on what Thomas just said, I often wonder if the mental gymnastics that's done around the consideration of promoting a neurodiverse person, if the same gymnastics is happening for another employee who hasn't disclosed. Certainly I've seen that. And I think when we spend so much time critically evaluating one person who has disclosed what's going on for them, it actually prevents them from moving forward and creates its own disadvantage. And I don't want to go quite as far as saying discrimination, but there is an injustice if you're doing a ton of mental gymnastics for one employee simply because they disclosed, and you're not doing the same for somebody else.
Thank you, Elena.
I also think that we need to give people the opportunity to show that they can be a leader. I mean, honestly, if we look at some of the top leaders or some of the top companies out there, a majority of them are neurodiverse. You know, I mean, and maybe I'm wrong with this and somebody can correct me if I am, but Elon Musk, I think he's a little neurodivergent, and Steve Jobs and Gates. I mean, there's a lot of them, but that's because they have the capability of thinking outside the box, which when you allow someone who's neurodivergent to be able to just do what they know how to do to the best of their ability, a lot of times they can come out and be one of the strongest leaders possible. But they first have to be given a chance. And I agree with what you just said about why are we doing these gymnastics of whether they could or couldn't? What is that about? It's looking at a person and saying, okay, so do they have the capability? Do they have the education? Do they have the understanding? Do they have the knowledge? Okay, they might be lacking in some of the social skills. Can we teach them? Of course we can. But that doesn't mean that they can't be a leader because they're neurodivergent. Sometimes being out there and just saying it like it is, sometimes that may be better as a leader instead of the bouncing around. The reality is nobody knows until you allow them to have that opportunity to try to see if they can do it. And if they can't, where are their weaknesses or where are their strengths, and be able to work with them on that. That's the reality of helping people to promote and to move forward. It's not about looking at all of this or all of that. It's the same with any person, whether they're neurodiverse or not. You wouldn't just walk into somebody who just started a job and said, okay, we're going to promote you to the leader. You're going to be now the CEO. We're going to take them and teach them as they go. How about we just, move them along and teach the people that are neurodiverse, here's your skill, here's your tool. And if that works, great. And if that's not for you, great. You at least tried. You at least saw where you can. And maybe that shows them where they really want to go if they don't want to be a leader. So there's a lot of aspects that we're bouncing around on instead of just saying, okay, let's just give them a chance. What if we gave them that chance? What could they show?
Thank you, Shaye.
Jesper, I have a comment or a question that hasn't actually been scripted. You have demonstrated some leadership just in the organization of this conversation, of this panel discussion. And I think it would be amazing for those who are listening to hear some of the rationale. What was the catalyst for you organizing this, and why you believe this is such an important conversation for HR professionals?
Absolutely. So when it comes to the world of HR, we do have a responsibility to really let everyone thrive and succeed in their role. And upon hearing today's conversation, it's given us, that playbook to give us more insights and ideas to, again, helping everyone thrive.
Thank you. Yeah,
So,
I
excellent
really
question.
appreciate you. Yeah, I appreciate you making this opportunity, because it's not something that a lot of people would think of. Most people are thinking in silos, and they're not looking at all the opportunities of diversity within an organization. So this is fantastic.
Excellent. And Stone, I like how you brought up the idea of culture. It all comes down to culture and really building that foundation in place to help everyone, move forward together. So excellent insight, Stone. And as we wrap up, panel, what is the best way for people to reach you should they want to learn more about you and the work you do?
My website is cometolifecoaching.com. You can also find me, Thomas Island, in all major social media platforms. I do a Tuesday TikTok talk every Tuesday about something personal or professional as to my clients and my life as a whole. And you can also find me on YouTube, here on LinkedIn, Instagram. And I look forward to coaching anyone that's interested in taking their life to the next level. And the reason I call Come to Life Coaching is my philosophy is that life doesn't come to you. It's up to you to come to life. The title of my first book. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.
The best way to get in contact with me is just through our agency page, which is stoneg.agency, stonegye.agency. Thank you.
Thank you, Stone.
The best way to connect with me is through my company's website, so candorgroup.ca. And you can reach us through up there. You can find out all sorts of things that we do and offer. Yeah.
Thank you, Alana.
And the best way to reach me is at NDOutLoud.com. I am one of the founding people with them in the core team that's there. I'm a director of people and coaching. Well, people strategy, I should say, not people themselves. You can also reach me on any of the social medias. It's under Shaye Woodward. So I look forward to talking with anyone that's ready.
Thank you, Shaye. And before we go, final question I have for our panel. What final piece of wisdom would you like to share with our audience?
I'll end the way I started. I miss what others catch, and I catch what others miss. HR professionals out there, you're the ones that are going to see that your organization hopefully catches what others might be missing. And neurodiverse, neurodivergent individuals could very well be that key. Rather than cast us aside, bring us in. See what magic can be brought about. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
In parting, I would just remind people that what we think is happening is not always what's happening. Human beings have a way of occurring and a way of already thinking where they go into a situation and pre-frame this is what is happening, and in many cases, again, that is not the case. So working on mastery with listening skills is paramount in any role, but especially if someone wants to allow for neurodivergence to thrive within their organization.
So, I would say if you're new to your neurodiversity, or if you're struggling through it, or if you're, that you're not alone, and that there are lots of other people around who are also learning this about themselves and how to support and accommodate it in themselves. And find someone to work with you and walk with you through it. It can be really isolating and lonely trying to figure it out on your own, and you don't have to figure out your neurodiversity by yourself.
Thank you, Alana.
I was going to say that same thing, Alana, but you beat me to it. But that's exactly what I would say, is that you really need a community. Find a community that can help you walk through these stuff, especially if you're new to this and you're just finding out. It's definitely something that would be super supportive, because they can help you finding the tools and the skills that you need that you may be lacking, or the things that you have and you can make it into a strength. So definitely look for a community that would work with you and help you to thrive.
Thank you, Shaye. Excellent pieces of wisdom from our panel. To everyone out there, we truly hope you picked up some new takeaways and insights. If you know any leaders who could benefit from this conversation, please feel free to share it with them. And last but not least, thank you to our panel, Thomas Island, Elena Bikes, Stone G, Shaye Woodward. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time to join us today and share your insights with us and with the world. I really appreciate it. And again, to everyone out there, thank you again for tuning in. I'll see you in the next episode.